Okay. Hello and welcome to day 109, I believe. I was 171 this afternoon because I woke up at 6 p.m. because I stayed up till like 5 in the morning playing Fortnite. But I'm still trying to salvage today, so I have a massive breakfast here, plus this whole thing of pineapples that I ate. I took a picture of it, but I'm not done with it, so I'll just show it right now. And then I'm gonna eat 2 bananas, and then like right when I'm done eating this, I'm just gonna go straight to the gym. But I was 171 this morning, and yeah, I think that's all there is to say for now. So here's the macros for this big breakfast, and here is said breakfast. I have 4 eggs, 84 grams egg whites, bread, turkey, bacon, cheese, 2 rump caps with jam, yogurt bowl, this thing of pineapple, which I've basically eaten the majority of, and then peanut butter. But yeah, that's it for now. So I will see y'all when I am done with the gym and doing whatever I'm doing next. Goodbye. Okay. I'm gonna cut off my face there because my hair is pissing me off. But the video that I'm recording today is for Thursday's video, and it is Saturday. And you might be thinking, Jesus, what happened to you? What is wrong with you? Do you even want this shit anymore? And the answer is yes, of course I want this shit, okay? But, you know, the events that happened yesterday night, Friday night, it was it was chud, degenerate, alcoholic behavior, okay? And I'm ashamed. I'm not proud, okay? But it happened. But those are things that you will hear about in a future video, because right now you're going to hear about the reading that I did do on Thursday, but I just didn't hit record. And I was right. Samson is the guy that is the one that loses his hair, but I don't want to spoil it. So that day, or yesterday, I read where basically Samson marries that woman and like the riddle, and then he kills all those men with the freaking jawbone of an animal, and you know, he's just farming aura basically. And so then today, or Thursday, I read chapters 16 and 17, and so it says, or I'll read these because they were actually very interesting chapters. So it says, once Samson went to Gaza, he saw a prostitute and visited her. The people of Gaza were told, Samson has come here, and they surrounded him with an ambush at the city gate all night long. And all the night they waited, saying, At morning light we will kill him. Samson lay there until midnight. Then he rose at midnight, seized the doors of the city gate and the 2 gateposts, and tore them loose, bar and all. He hoisted them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the ridge opposite Hebron. So, more aura farming, bro. Just ripped these doors open, you know, no diff. And then the next part of this chapter is titled Samson and Delilah. And then it says, after that, he fell in love with a woman in the Wadi Sarek whose name was Delilah. The lords of the Philistines came up to her and said, trick him and find out where he gets his great strength, and how we may overcome him and bind him so as to make him helpless. Then for our part, we will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So 1,100 low-key sounds like a lot, but like, you know, obviously no amount of money should convince you to betray your husband. And then it says, so Delilah said to Samson, tell me where you get your great strength and how you may be bound so as to be made helpless. And then he says, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not dried, Samson answered her, I shall grow weaker and be like everyone else. So the lords of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she bound him with them. She had men lying in wait in the room, and she said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he snapped the bowstring as a thread of tow is snapped by a whiff of flame, and his strength remained unexplained. So he lied to her. And then it says, Delilah said to Samson, you mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me how you may be bound. And then he says, if they bind me tight with new ropes, with which no work has been done, he answered her, I shall grow weaker and be like anyone else. So Delilah took new ropes, bound him with them. She said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. For there were men lying in wait in the room. But he snapped the ropes off his arms like thread. So he lies to her again. And then Delilah says to Samson, up to now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me how you may be bound. He said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my hair into the web and fasten them with a pin, I shall grow weaker and be like anyone else. So, ignore my dog barking. So when he went to bed, Delilah took the 7 locks of his hair and wove them into the web and fastened them with a pin. And basically she says, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And he awakes from his sleep, pulls both the loom and the web, and then, he basically lies to her again. And then she says, how can you say I love you when your heart is not mine? 3 times already you have mocked me and told me where you get your great strength. She pressed him continually and pestered him till he was deathly weary of it. So she's just being annoying, like she's just asking him nonstop. And so then he tells her the truth. And then, so it says, so he told her all that was in his heart and said, no razor has touched my head, for I have been a Nazarite for God from my mother's womb. If I am shaved, my strength will leave me, and I shall grow weaker and be like anyone else. And then it says, when Delilah realized that he had told her all that was in his heart, she summoned the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up this time, for he has told me all that is in his heart. So the lords of the Philistines came to her and brought money with them. She put him to sleep on her lap and called for a man who shaved off the 7 locks of his hair. He immediately became helpless, for his strength had left him. Then when she said, the Philistines are upon you, Samson, he woke up from his sleep and thought, I will go out as I have done time and time again and shake myself free. He did not realize that the Lord had left him. But the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. Then they brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze fetters, and he was put to grinding grain in the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow as soon as it was shaved. So that last sentence, but his hair, began to grow as soon as it was shaved. That's kind of like, it's like a little ominous. It's kind of like foreshadowing what happens next. So oddly enough, the next part of this chapter is titled The Death of Samson, but bro goes out in probably like the coolest way ever. So it says, the lords of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon and to celebrate. They said, our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our power. When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, our God has delivered into our power our enemy, the ravager of our land, the one who has multiplied our slain. When their spirits were high, they said, call Samson, that he may amuse us. So they called Samson from the prison, and he provided amusement for them. They made him stand between the columns. And Samson said to the attendant who was holding his hand, put me where I may touch the columns that support the temple, so that I may lean against them. The temple was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there. And from the roof, about 3,000 men and women looked on as Samson provided amusement. So there is a ton of people at this celebration, like thousands. So, and then it says, Samson cried out to the Lord and said, Lord God, remember me, strengthen me only this once, that I may avenge myself on the Philistines at one blow for my 2 eyes. That is probably the hardest line that I have read in the entire Bible thus far. Let me read it again. So he's like in these, like he's between these massive columns, right? Like with all these people like around him, like basically like they're being supported by these columns. Like this whole building is being held up by these columns. And he cries out to the Lord and says, Lord God, remember me. Strengthen me only this once, that I may avenge myself on the Philistines at one blow for my 2 eyes. So he's like, let me in one move kill all these Philistines and repay them for taking both my eyes. And so it says, Samson grasped the 2 middle columns on which the temple rested and braced himself against them, one at his right and one at his left. Then saying, let me die with the Philistines, Samson pushed hard, and the temple fell upon the lords and all the people who were in it. Those he killed by his dying were more than those he had killed during his lifetime. His kinsmen and all his father's house went down and bore him up for burial in the grave of Manoah, his father, between Zorah and Eshtaol, and he had judged Israel for 20 years. So he literally just sacrifices himself and takes out like thousands of Philistines in one move, which is crazy. But that's the end of Samson, which is kind of sad. He was a very cool character in my opinion. The only thing that was a little strange was him sleeping with the prostitute and then just like low-key leaving her. But anyways, then I read Judges chapter 17, which I'll read the explanation for because it's kind of just it's the introduction of Micah. but the chapter is titled Micah and the Levite. So it says, Judges 17 explains Israel's deep spiritual decay during the times of Judges, focusing on a man named Micah, who creates his own idol shrine, hires a rogue Levite as a personal priest, and tries to buy God's favor, illustrating a do-it-your-own religion, so a DIY religion, where people did what seemed right in their own eyes, completely disregarding God's command for worship and leadership, leading to idolatry and spiritual chaos. So yeah, that's basically all that happens in this chapter is Micah builds this idol or whatever, and he hires this priest. But yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with this, but I hope it is interesting. But yeah, that is it for today, which is Thursday, and it's not Thursday today, but the day you're watching this is for Thursday. It was supposed to be Thursday when I read this stuff, or when I made this video, but I'm forgetting if... I'm pretty positive I had macros for today, so I'll put them up right now. I'm trusting in myself, and if I'm lying, then I'll just put that picture where the guy says, why is he lying? But yeah, that's it for today. So if you're watching this, thank you very much. Like if you want, comment if you want, and subscribe if you want. And I will see y'all tomorrow for day 110. It's 110 tomorrow. So goodbye.